How can you say that if you don't declare the woman, we will kill you repeatedly, several times to EC officials, and then expect that result to hold? How can you say the one in Okaikwe Central, where Honorable St. George is standing next to the returning officer and literally feeding the words into his mouth? The man can be seen to be shaking, and Honorable St. George is standing right next to him, telling him what to say. I really wish you can play the video for me, Annie, so that everything is in perspective. Then the declaration is made with 110 out of 140 polling stations. Is that the democracy we want in this country? See, you've won an election, that's all well and good. But going above and beyond to use means of violence and just outright thuggery to try and twist the hands of the now opposition party is something that should not be tolerated. It should be unanimously condemned by everybody across the political divide.
You said the declaration is made from the numbers?
From 110 out of 140. The video is there. If you play it, even the returning officer standing next to St. George at that time, shaking for his life, because I wonder what he had gone through prior to that. It's saying boldly.
Don't you think that if you had gotten the video prior to that, it would have done both of us a lot of good?
No, but let's play it and then we can then take it from there.
Because the video you sent me, if we had gotten, I'm not sure if my team has that. I wish that I had the video prior to this.
You didn't show my picture.
Before
I'm going
the
to show
declaration.
you.
No, I'm not saying I'm going to show
what
you.
happened? But I'm sure you've seen that picture doing the rounds on social media. I'm sure that all the returning
officers in every polling station know what they are about, for want of better expression. They know what they're about. They know the calculation. They know how many votes cast in that particular polling station. They know the number of probably spoiled ballots. They know,
yes.
You know, all that. If you put it together, sometimes, I'm not saying pertaining to this, but sometimes you can calculate and tell that even if you add maybe extra 30 polling centers or something, the figures will still not change.
And that was not the case.
Will not make any
that's
impact.
Okaikwe Central, that was not the case.
Okay.
And a lot of these returning officers that were forced to make declarations under duress personally wrote to the chairperson of the Electoral Commission that they made these declarations under duress, and so it should be nullified. Have you seen that letter from the returning officer of Tema Central?
Yes.
See, these things that have gone on in these elections is something that is shameful.
But,
it has to be
condemned. I'm sure this has become a cliche, where everybody is saying that Jean Mensah is the one that wrote in 2020 and said, if you have any issues of recollection, issues of declaration at your polling station or your constituency.
The issues in 2020 were very different. No, the issues in 2020 were very different from the issues we are experiencing now.
What do you mean the issues?
If you're talking about Techiman South, can you prove that the actions, the chaos that was going on outside the coalition centers had an effect on the declaration of the poll?
The Techiman South?
Yes, you can't. That wasn't the case at that point.
Okay, get me the Techiman South video.
Yes,
that one I'll play for you.
No, but we have to play mine too, because that gives perspective.
No, I didn't play hers. So I won't play yours.
Oh, we can play both.
No, I just want to be fair at some level. But because you mentioned Techiman South, you want to establish.
Then let's not play anything, because I wanted
South.
to establish based on that as well. That shows every constituency what happened.
Because
and the
that one, I want to show you,
had a direct bearing on the declaration of the
I
results.
want to show you how the declaration was done, even before the shooting started outside. So I would really like everybody to see the Techiman South.
No, if we are not going to show the other ones, Annie, then there's no point of that, because then you can see the clear pattern. You have to show both of it.
No,
and as I was saying, even this issue of recoalition and whatnot, this is not the first time it's happening. Everybody wants to behave like it's brand new in our politics. But in 2004, in Peru constituency in the Bono region, Afarijan, who was the chairperson of the Electoral Commission at that time, recollated results because they were declared under duress. So it's the conversation this morning, is what everybody is trying to say this morning, is that if somebody holds a gun to your head and forces you to declare based on votes from 110 out of 140 polling stations, in some of the other constituencies, about 64 polling stations were not even added, and they materially changed the result of that election, then it will just become a free-for-all for everybody in this country. Whoever has the most tags will win an election. Do we see the tangents that we are trying to push ourselves on? I think it's absolutely shameless the way the NDC is behaving. You have won by so large a margin. Why are you threatening people? why are you going? Who has the confidence to stand in front of people and then hit the table and tell the returning officer of the Electoral Commission, just trying to do their job, that if you don't declare the woman, I will kill you? I hope you've seen that video.
Yeah.
And that's something we should just...
on social media.
Yes. If you don't... It's part of the... I sat down to join all the pieces of what happened in all the 9 polling stations together, and I sent it to you.
And all of them, the returning officers had threats on them that I'll kill you if you don't...
One, that happened, and I specified, every time I mention it, I specify where it happened. That was Okaikwe Central, where... No, that was Ablekuma North. Yes. So that's not something that you expect. In other places, Tema Central, the returning officer wrote a 3-page report, essentially, on what happened, how he had to be kept in a room by security officers, blah, 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 and how he was forced to announce the results without all the polling stations.
So the chairman of the Electoral Commission selected, appointed, chose, sent, directed persons who were supposed to be returning officers, right? And placed them at polling stations and constituencies and asked that you are my returning officer. Everything you do here represents me. That's the final word as far as the parliamentary elections are concerned. After the declaration, parties come up with accusations and allegations, including your returning officer, who says, oh, well, I was threatened, and because of that, I declared this way, right? And you chose to believe that and held a press conference, right? And said, well, this and this and this and this are the number of my returning officers who raised issues of threats on their lives. Because of that, I'm going to do recollation against her own words that were in 2020. And you say that the issues were different. The issues were not different. In fact, in 2020, some of the issues were worse. In Techiman South, it was worse. In, it was worse.
How? So a gun was held to the head of the returning officer.
Techiman South. Let me play Techiman South.
To write.
Then, wait. Then there is an application in court that this and this and this is what happened to these constituencies. So we want a recollation. Then court sits and calls the case. Does not include the defendants.
So even information reaching me on that, I'm sure you were forwarded that message
your
as well, that it wasn't done in ex parte.
Your injunction on relocation cancelled. We're not going to injunct the relocation. It will happen. No party from the NDC side on the case that was heard. And it goes on like this. And then recollation is that something normal to you? I'm not a lawyer, you're not a lawyer, but is it by common sense of a human being, is that normal to you?
Firstly, information I have here goes to the fact that that application was not done ex parte. Number one. Number two, the Electoral Commission had already decided on Thursday when they made that press conference that they were going to recollate the results. What's the purpose of that, the order, the mandamus order we are all talking about right now? It is to compel, it's a court order to compel a government official to do something that is their job. So that is the only purpose of that order. So if that government official or institution has already decided to undertake that, what does a cancellation of that order have? What bearing does a cancellation of that order have on the institution that already decided to go down that line? So as I was saying previously, in Peru constituency in 2008, let's see what Afarijan said about recollation of results that were done under duress. Because we can't make it normal in our democracy that when after elections are held, quite almost peacefully to a certain extent, then anybody who has more thugs, anybody who can display a higher level of violence can then go and disrupt things that are happening in the collation center to force people to declare results that do not match the pink sheet or the mandate of the people per that constituency. That's what we are talking about. But and the Electoral Commission has over time in 2004 and even in the election petition in 2016 that they have the ability to correct their own mistakes. let me read what happened in 2004 for you, what Afrejan did when he did the recoalition. So this is not the first time this is happening. And there are very serious, not even allegations, there are very serious things that happened. And that should be the focus of what we are talking about. Not whether an order which really has no bearing on the issue. Because they were going to do what they were going to do anyway. They had already come out on Thursday to say they were going to do it. So maybe they're going to court to even get the order was just an extra pressure on the Electoral Commission. Because you cannot do that. That's not how democracies work. We don't expect people to go and be able to cast their vote for you to...
Going to court was rather pressure.
No, I'm just saying, by the NPP, because they had already decided to do that. So if your argument is that...
you mean the EC?
The EC had already said on Thursday they were going to do that. So if your argument is that the order or the process of it, and that's everybody's legal opinion. Everybody has an opinion legally. You are not the judge. Even though the NDC they've made it their modus operandi to attack any government institution when things don't go their way. When deep down, even inside them, they know some of these seats they did not get. And they were trying to use Takashi. Let me use that word today to try and claim those seats, even in their own hearts, according to their own coalition center and pink sheets. You know these numbers do not reflect the true things on the ground. In Okaikwe Central, when you declared with 110 out of 140 polling stations, what are you trying to achieve with that? Then don't let people vote. Just go and hold your guns at the heads of the EC and let them do whatever they want. No, you already have a huge majority. So I don't see why you are going out of your way to demonstrate how violent you are to the people of Ghana. That's not what they asked for. They asked for peaceful elections. We tried to make sure that we gave them peaceful elections the best we could. If you are every day EC is rigging, NDC will say this from now till the end of time, but you are still able to win with a huge margin. So what was the rigging about? You've been talking about Jean Mensah so much. You've been talking, I don't know, sometimes I feel for this. What is her crime? Her only crime is to be the Electoral Commissioner in the country, trying to do the right thing. This recoalition that she's done, yes, trying to do that. What's her offense? Can somebody tell me what the offense of Jean Mensah is?
Charlotte Osei?
No, Charlotte Osei was found in breach of procurement processes. That's why she was removed.
And was she prosecuted for that?
That's why she was removed. There was a petition. No, that the processes of that time were followed. The processes of the law at that time were followed.
She was left to go scot-free.
Was she not walking free? That's for the appropriate institutions to deal with, Annie. We are talking about Jean Mensah today because somebody can come and sit here and make allegations that she's colluding with the Honourable Afenyo Markin without any offense.
Even on you as a person, it's unfair to cast allegations on you without prosecution, for you to be walking about with a tag on you and nothing has been done.
There was a commission.
You know it would be unfair.
There was a commission, and those people that dealt with that issue, they can answer these questions because they are independent arms of government. I'm talking about Jean Mensah. What has she done to receive all of these allegations from the NDC?
Jean Mensah declared elections how many times in 2020?
That's not what we are talking about.
That's what we're talking about. Because you are comparing it right now. You're asking questions. Hold on. You're asking questions on what she has done. And I always want to think as a normal person, not as a professional, as a lawyer, a doctor, or anything, but as a normal person on the street. If you're dealing with someone who is consistently coming up with mistakes, you look out.
So in this case, that people declared results under duress.
In this case, she has declared elections at the constituency level, and she herself came back and said, "No, you know that's what happened."
No, but that's what. No, are you saying here this morning that after everything that you've seen, all the acts of vandalism and all the acts of intimidation against returning officers, you call those declarations valid?
Why would I call it?
No, so I mean, what are you saying? So you can't say that.
Why would I call it valid or invalid? I won't call it valid or invalid. She has told me.
Let me read what
if I have a problem. Hold on. She has told me that if I have a problem with the declaration, I should go to court. It hasn't changed in 2020. So if any issue comes up with that, I will just proceed to court.
Actually, it has changed. As I said, the circumstances are different. it is proven by law, by a lot of precedent, that the Electoral Commission has the authority to correct their wrongs before the results are gazetted. These are instances where there has been a blatant disregard of the rule of law in this election, where the returning officers themselves have written that they declared these results under duress, not just under duress where the fabric of the matter was not even into dispute, where they declared in a place where there are 140, you declare the results based on 110. Sometimes about 3 polling stations were not added. These are indications, things they did under duress that affects the direct results of these elections.
How do you think one of the returning officers recused himself from this practice?
After all the intimidation and violence that was meted on him the first time, is it that difficult to believe that he would want to recuse himself?
Oh, so they are bold.
No, yes, of course. It takes some boldness in the face of, I will kill you if you don't declare the woman to come out and do the right thing. Don't you think so?
So can you imagine what will happen in Ghana if 98% or let's say 80% of all the returning officers came up with this write-up that,
they won't come up with it, and if it did not happen.
Imagine if that were the situation and they all came up, all of them said we were threatened.
No.
It means that the Electoral Commission would have to go back to recollation and collate all 276 constituencies.
So are you saying that in the 9 constituencies, even though a lot of the declarations were done incompletely and under duress, we should allow it to go?
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that is this what should happen because your returning officer came to write that, well,
because the returning officer came to write. There's overwhelming evidence that the right things were not done. That's what we are talking about. There's overwhelming
who
evidence.
Describes what overwhelming?
Video evidence that I've asked you to play. That's the overwhelming evidence. How do you, somebody enters here, then they put a gun to your head and say, Annie, read this as news, and it's a lie. Read this as news, saying Dr. Ikea killed somebody this morning, and you read it. Okay. Should that be allowed to stand?
Okay.